You get that far, you better get at least a diamond, I figure. A lot of it is being in the right place at the right time. I think you'd agree. At the time, it was unheard of. Like, what, a grocery store? And the company was folded, but that's very unfortunate. And it was significant. It wasn't an easy process. We just saw things very different. If you don't have that, then you're not gonna make it, I can tell you. The losses will kill you. If I'm working out the same way I was doing when I was 25 and 30, it's not sustainable. I'm gonna injure myself, and injuries take forever to recover from. Yeah, it's very scary. Those 2 weeks were the longest 2 weeks of my life, Frank, because of COVID. I blame COVID from a good perspective that it actually got me to do this properly, right?
Where does the name Dimsy come from?
Dimsy, I gotta show you.
Oh, right here. Hi, Nadim. How are you doing?
Hey, Frank, how are you? Long time, my friend.
Okay, Nadim, thank you for sparing some time with me today. We go through your diverse experience today with our audiences. That'll be very helpful for them. First, could you briefly introduce yourself? Who are you? What do you do?
Before I do that, Frank, I want to first of all thank you for all the amazing stuff you do. Like, you and I go back a while. I think it was BMO days for you, and I was with Equifax at the time. But I really look forward to your interviews, but mostly the stats that you give and the summary of the Canada-US. It's very relevant. So I just want to thank you for that before I get into it. So I put that aside. My name is Nadim Abdo. Obviously, as you know, I've been in the industry for a number of years, over 30 years, I'm going to say. Once you're over that stage, you don't give the exact number, right? It's like when you're over 50, you say you're 50 plus. Could be anywhere there. So I've been doing, basically, I've been in Canada for about 35 years. And ever since I came here, I came after university and I started my career in risk management with CIBC at the time. And then 30 years went by and the whole thing stemmed around that. So on a personal side, next month in January, I'll be married for 25 years. So I think that's a major accomplishment. So, anybody who can keep up with you for 25 years is significant. So I have an amazing wife. I have 2 amazing daughters of 21 and 14. One of them is finishing engineering at U of T. The other one is in grade 10. And I have my boy Louis, who is my 3-year-old golden doodle, and we have a cat called Milo. So that's my family, that's who I am. And as I mentioned, I've been in risk management and credit for the last 30 plus years, but with different flavors here and there, which I'm sure we'll touch on as we go through it.
Oh, great. Okay. Congratulations on your 25 years anniversary.
Oh man, thank you. I think just in light, my parents, this January as well, turned 60 years anniversary. Like,
You call that
that's a diamond. That's a diamond, man.
Okay.
You get that far, you better get at least a diamond, I figure, right?
Yeah. Congratulations to them as well.
Thank you.
For your first job, you started in risk. Was that a very conscientious choice?
It's a lot of my career and a lot of people's careers, I think. You try and plan it a certain way. A lot of it is being at the right place at the right time. I think you'll agree. So how did I start risk management? My undergraduate degree was in business. I did the marketing and management at the time. And I left university like everybody else. This was in the US. I worked for a year there. And my first job was with a collections company for a student loans company. So it was a great experience, all about due diligence and that, but I knew nothing, right? Business degree coming out, doing first year. So when I came to Canada, I was looking to start my career, and the natural thing seemed to be, as at the time CIBC had their account officer program, where basically you would go into the bank and they would train you to be an account officer and then to go into lending and credit and all that stuff. So for me, it was an amazing opportunity. Again, 1 year experience out of university. So I joined them. I joined CIBC under the account management, under the account officer program. And I ended up spending about probably almost 10 years there. So I'm not going to bore you through all the details, but they take you through everything. So I went through large corporate, I went to mid-market, I went to small business, and I was the account officer, then account manager. So learning how credit is done, and we're going back 30 years. So there was no credit scoring back then. It was, very different lending. We're not going to get too much into that. But that's how I did it. And then at the end of that journey was my first foray into consumer lending and kind of more technology, which we'll get into. You probably remember President's Choice Financial. This is not the MasterCard. This is the amicus piece between CIBC and Loblaws. So I was on that initial team. I was one of the three players on the risk team. I was a senior manager at the time. And that was the first foray of getting into decisioning, into scoring, into technology, right? So my first 8 years was very much in the field, and then I transitioned into that. So that was my first 10 years at the bank. But that's how I got in there. Right place, right time. It seemed like a good position to go in. Banks were, always respected places to go. And the idea was you could grow within there. So that's how I started my first 10 years.
Oh, great. When you talk about CIBC and PC Financial, I still remember I came here in 99. That's the first time I saw in the grocery store. That's the interest rate savings account 5%. Though seems 20 years later we're back to the same similar
They've
stage.
done very well. They've done very well. When you have good segmentation, good clients, all that, there's a lot to be done. So yeah, I applaud them for that, because at the time it was unheard of. Like, what, a grocery store? It was very innovative at the time. It was very cool.
Fast forward to 2023, you have also pivoted from traditional banking to fintech world. Would you bring us back to the moment that you co-found the fintech company Brim Financial?
Yes, of course. That was about probably just under 10 years ago, about 8 years ago, when the whole thing started. So at that time, I had about 20 years or so in banking and consulting. And, I'm not going to go through my resume now, but I had started my own consulting firm at the time. This was after Equifax. About a year after, I did my own consulting firm. And I was consulting mostly with, my background, which was risk management, some operations, anything to do with credit and risk, basically. So, right place, right time. Through my firm, I met the principal of Brim Financial, Rasha. So there was three co-founders. She was obviously it was her idea, but then we had somebody in charge of product, and then I came in to look after the risk management piece. So this was a purely new entity. What was amazing to me at the time is, again, having been in credit for so many years and having seen how technology was evolving, and yet seeing that the banks always want to evolve and they spend a lot of money in the technology. We all know that. But when you have such a heavy infrastructure, the legacy infrastructure, you just can't pivot that much and you can't move that much, right? Which is, we'll get into that, I'm sure, later on. But to me, the opportunity was amazing, because here you are, credit card issuing, but doing it differently from a platform perspective. It was all technology driven. It was going to be the first truly digital bank at the time. Now, what was amazing about that too is that MasterCard or Visa, and Visa still doesn't, they never issued any licenses, any issuing licenses, or acquiring for that matter, to anybody who was not a bank. So Brim was actually the first non-bank to get a MasterCard license in Canada. And it was significant. It wasn't an easy process. We can't go through the details, but that was about an 18 to 24-month process just to get the license. So once we got through that, the rest was amazing. So my shift was basically, at the time, there was a lot of technology happening, as we know, decisioning. I learned so much about technology at that time, about API integrations, and it was just significant and amazing. But I would say it was rewarding, because I saw all the pain, and you see the pain. We all see the pain the banks go through, and they see it themselves. It's not that they don't want to fix it, they just can't right now, So that's where the fintechs, I think, can do all that. And it's all through the infrastructure, technology, customer engagement, which we'll get into. Like, if you ask me what's the biggest difference, or what's the most important thing in fintech versus traditional banking, I would say customer experience.
Great. Definitely the building of such a credit card issuing platform was just about time. What was the reception from the market?
The market is good. If you give people what they want, with the right time, right place, right amount, right everything, they will take you. How many credit cards do we have in Canada? 100, 200, 300? When you think about it, you would have thought we had reached a saturation point 10, 20 years ago, but I don't think we have, because consumers want more, banks want more, fintechs, it's just the evolution continues, where as long as you're able to offer consumers what they want, they will keep coming to you.
For anyone who wants to enter this credit card issuance space right now, what do you think are the key steps for them to launch such a business?
These are the key things. Like, anybody could start a credit card business, But how do you account for all this? So funding's in place, making sure you own as much of your IP, basically. You're building your IP because, again, think about it. Exit strategies for fintechs are either you go and you do platform as a service, or somebody buys you out. So that IP becomes critical, and that's what really makes you differentiates you from all the other ones. So you have to really, most of the focus on development, from what I found in the couple of fintechs that I've been, is making sure your IP is there, you own as much of it as possible as you can, and it's very scalable. Scalability becomes a big issue because it's all about agility, right? That's where the fintechs win. They're very agile, and that's where they always win that game.
So what I took was basically build your edge, move fast, build skill.
Yeah.
Great. So after Brim, you move on to Savvy Group. What's the story? How did you join them?
Savvy was very interesting. So Savvy came about. After we launched Brim, I left and I went back to my consulting firm. Then I was trying to launch my fitness business, and then I met the old chief product officer at Brim, and he was starting a new credit card company, Savvy. So I was there promoting my fitness business, but he said, no, I need a chief risk officer. So that's how that whole thing came about. So I said, yeah, great. I looked at the infrastructure, the funding appeared to be there. Everything seemed great. In my experiences, I'm always involved with product. I'm always involved in operations. I'm always involved in engineering and IT, because I need to know as a CRO what is happening in the entity. There's different risks coming. It's not to block them, it's to actually collaborate and to make them better. And to me, the nicest thing about fintechs is you get a lot of mix of young and old. Because we're using technology, to me, the best thing about Savvy was dealing with all these younger people, the millennials, what have you, who just saw things very differently. I'm very technical. I understand things. I think I'm pretty advanced in my thinking, but I learned so much, man. So what you do is you collaborate, and you see that very well in fintechs because you need that openness, you need that connectivity, you need to understand how the experience works. I'm getting challenged by somebody who's very young who doesn't understand credit, but I listen to them because what they're saying actually will impact if somebody's going to take the product or not. If they don't take the product, the risk management is useless at that point. Unfortunately, Savvy never went to market, so a lot of people don't know about it. But that's too bad. Again, that's where I talk about funding, right? And the funding unfortunately wasn't there at the end, and the company was folded. But that's very unfortunate because I can tell you, man, it was a year. And what we did in that year, and the team was just probably the best team I've ever worked with ever. I mean, it was just spectacular. But it was unfortunate it never made it to market because I think that would have really kicked ass. I really do think so. Yeah.
Glad to hear that you were able to join Savvy, bring the risk discipline early on in the product process. That's I think what the industry needs exactly.
Risk appetite is so important, and now, especially what we're getting into the next 2-3 years, as they call it, the CRO's nightmare. I mean, it's very scary. But again, if you're doing this right, you can really go after the market and do very well. But you have to be agile, especially as you get into difficult times, to be able to react very quickly. So you have to have the systems, the operations, the monitoring tools. That's key. If you don't have that, then you're not going to make it, I can tell you. The losses will kill you.
In the last 3 years, obviously the pandemic has changed the whole world. Did that impact you in any specific way?
Of course it did. I mean, but not all bad. I've always worked out all my life, right? I've always been very active. I love sports. I love exercise. I love working out. But then COVID came and I started doing it. So first I went the opposite direction because, like everybody else, you start getting depressed and all that. But then I said, you know what? No, I got to start working out. So I started working out extra hard and doing it more and not giving myself any recovery time. So I did it so bad that I injured myself everywhere. So I did, because I was just overworking out, not getting enough rest or recovery. Misconception, like people need recovery. You actually build muscles during recovery, not when you're working out, because that's when you're tearing. Anyway, we're not going to get into that now. Anyway, so when that happened and I was at the time between contracts, I said, you know what? I've always wanted to be a personal trainer. So this is a great time to do it. I'm between jobs kind of thing now. I have a couple of small consulting gigs, but how difficult can it be? I see this big muscle heads. How smart can they be, right? They're very smart, let me tell you. So I said, okay, let me look. I looked into it, and I had a couple of fitness buddies and trainers. So they said, go to CanFit Pro, Community Fitness Professionals, the biggest organization in Canada. Get certified through them, and then go down there. I said, okay, perfect. So I said, I'll take a crash course over a weekend, which I did. And I said, I'll give myself 2 weeks. I'll sit for the test. How difficult can it be, right? Those 2 weeks were the longest 2 weeks of my life, Frank. Like, you have to go through a textbook. I'll show it somewhere here. Like a textbook this big. You have to understand anatomy. You have to understand, the lung diffusion, how the heart works, which chambers, like you have to understand every single muscle group, how they work. So it's very, very technical, and it's all anatomy. And I'm a business major. I don't know any of that stuff, right? So, however, in those 2 weeks, I was like, I'd wake up at 6 in the morning and I'd go to bed at 10 every night. And I wouldn't, I'd lock myself in my home office. My kid, nobody was allowed to come in. And thus, I just dedicated myself, and I passed. I did very well, and then I went to the practical. So I became certified within a month or so. And I said, okay, well, this is great. Now let me see if I can make a living out of this, right? Or do I want to do this? Because fintech and credit risk is what I love, but I love this as much, if not more. So I tried that, and that's when I said, okay, you know what? I started with friends and family, and now I was trained. Once you're trained, it's a different ballgame. You can do a lot of reading, you can do a lot of, there's a lot of information out there, but until you actually understand what training meant and how you should be doing it, it changes your whole life. It changed my routine. Between now, 2 years ago and now, I've transformed my whole self. I changed my whole workout routines. Everything is very age appropriate. If you're still working out, like I'm 50, I'll be 58 next month. If I'm working out the same way I was doing when I was 25 and 30, it's not sustainable. I'm going to injure myself, and injuries take forever to recover from, right? So anyway, the best thing is go to dimsyfitness.com on my website. I talk about all this age appropriate fitness and all that stuff, but that's where my passion has been because of COVID. I blame COVID from a good perspective that it actually got me to do this properly, right? Because if I didn't have that time, I would have never done it, probably, I think, because I always thought in my mind it would take a long time to do it. Plus, it's a shift. So, is it going to be a living? Maybe. I'd like to. It's a big passion of mine. But COVID, to me, helped me kind of get into this field. So it kind of opened dimensions for me. It made me a better, healthier person. I'm able to help people, and the benefit initially was to help people, not to make money out of it. So I said I can help myself, I can help my wife, I can help my cousins, I can help my friends, because everybody was going through the same thing, right? And then that's why I did it. So again, in a very long-winded way, COVID was good for me from that perspective, I guess.
Where does the name Dimsy come from?
Dimsy, I gotta show you. Dimsy, I got a flex for that one.
Oh, right here.
Dimsy is my nickname. So Nadim, Dimsy. And there's a different story for that. We don't have enough time for that, Frank. That's a different campfire story that my name came up. But that's my nickname. Everything I do is under Dimsy. So I figured, you know what? It's me doing it. So let's call it Dimsy Fitness. So that's how I came up with it. The logo, my cousin helped me do it. He's an architect, designer, so we have a lot of talent. So it was all homegrown kind of thing. But that's how it came about. My license plate says Dimsy as well. Everything is Dimsy.
That's good. That's your brand.
Yeah, it's my brand, Dimsy Fitness. I have some merch for it as well.
Who are your target fitness clients?
My clients are typically middle-aged men and women. Initially I thought it was going to be men. I'll be honest with you. When I launched it, I said it's going to be people like me who like to work out, want to get motivated, do it properly. What I'm finding out, actually, it's more middle-aged women who are more interested in this. Women commit more than men. I'm sorry, I have 2 daughters and a wife, and I think anybody who has that will agree. So they will commit more, and once they get it to their mind, they want to do something, they will get it done. So right now I have like 6 clients or so, a couple of other groups. I have a women's group, I call my queens. I have my men's group, I call my kings. They're all 50 plus. And I do different kinds of things. Typically happens in my groups is I have some younger people, 30s plus, and it's great. But where I resonate the most, where I connect the most, is with middle-aged professionals. Because as we're working out, I like groups too. I love small groups, big groups, because the dynamics are different, right? And people self-motivate themselves, and it becomes more fun. I like to joke around, right? So I'll joke around with it's very mutual, right? So we have a lot of fun. So when you work out with me, you leave feeling, physically exhausted but good. You feel emotionally good as well, because we talk a lot, and if you have some issues, we end up discussing them. I've had some clients who talk about business stuff. I have some clients who talk about personal stuff. As you get to know me, I'm that kind of a person. I'm just very open, and I like to help in all areas. So that's the kind of client I have and I'm looking for. I'm not the kind of I'm not going to go and work out in gyms and stuff like that. I'm not looking to do that. My real angle, I'll tell you what it is, Frank. Like, I'm trying to actually help companies bring people back into the office. I've approached a couple of corporations. It's very difficult. It's not that easy, but again, people, I think health and wellness are so critical right now, in fitness, right? It all goes into mental as well. It's so important, right? Healthy body, healthy mind. It started years ago, and it's so true. So if you can bring it all together in a setting that's comfortable for you, whether it's virtual or not, why not do that, right? Why do you need personal trainers, Frank? Everybody goes to the gym. Well, everybody has a gym membership. Nobody goes to the gym. That's the difference, right? So people need accountability and motivation. It's really called guilt, right? Like, I'll make you feel guilty if you don't go. I'm just kidding. But these are the key factors of personal trainers and why they are able to motivate people to kind of to keep doing what they're doing. So my best clients are people typically my age, who look at my journey and see where I came from. Like, I've always been in shape, but I've lost quite a bit of weight. I've changed my whole health habits, everything. I feel so much better about myself. I'm full of energy all the time, and people see that it becomes contagious. And plus, we can resonate. We talk at the same level, right? We understand each other. So that's my target clients. So if I get into companies, great. I do one-on-ones. I do small groups. I do a bit of everything.
I see that what you are doing through this personal training coaching service is really reduce the risk of people getting injured, right? So that's the same thing as risk management.
And you know it too well. My wife and my kids, they said, Dad, is everything to do with risk? I said, you know what? I've been doing this for 35 years. Unfortunately, it is. That's how I think. And I drive people crazy, man. But yeah, it is. Everything is risk driven. But again, how do you do it better? How do you make it more sustainable, right? Like, that's where risk is very positive in my mind.
At the beginning of the new year, many people, they want to build up their good workout routine, but many, they also have difficulties. Any advice for people like that?
Absolutely. Talk to DMZ Fitness. No, but also, listen, this is, again, a New Year's, it shouldn't be a New Year's thing, but it is. Why make resolutions? Just every day should be a resolution. That's how I think, right? But anyway, seriously, everybody should be moving at least 150 minutes a week. So half an hour. If you're not doing anything, go for a walk. Make it a fast walk, slow walk. If you have a pet, go with your pet, thing for a walk. At least minimum half an hour a day. Seek the advice. It doesn't have to be me. Just go to a personal trainer you're comfortable with, right? You have to resonate with somebody. Start with half an hour, Frank. Start with 20 minutes every day. You gotta start somewhere, right? Get dust off those running shoes. If you don't like to run, don't run. Do some HIIT work. If you have bad knees, there's other ways to do it. There's so many ways that you can do it. The whole point is just start moving, do more.
Great. How do people get in touch with you?
Well, there's different ways. I'm on LinkedIn, so I think Nadim Abdo is on LinkedIn. I also have, for DMZ Fitness, I have DMZ Fitness, which is DEEMSYFITNEES.com. So I have my blog there. I have, you can find out more about me there.
Okay, great, Nadim. Thank you so much for coming in today. And for anyone who have the needs, whether in fintech, banking, lending, or in fitness, feel free to reach out to Nadim.
Yeah, or both. Thank you, Frank. Appreciate it.
Great. Yeah.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Same to you. Thank you. Take care.